So how I got into HMO investing started my early career within investment banking. I actually started off in technology and ended up in project and program delivery. And a lot of those skills were transferable into the world of property, especially when it came to project managing HMO refurbs. I was always a born serial entrepreneur. I've always wanted to get into business, and property was one of the easiest vehicles. The reason I wanted to do this was I wanted to create financial independence not only for myself but also leave a legacy for my children. When I first started in the early years, I actually helped my mum and dad do the right to buy scheme, a council property, and I learned the early stages of conveyancing, mortgages, and I thought, this is a great way of building a wealth system. So what I was struggling with prior was a couple of things. One was my health. Working in the banking environment is pretty much drinking culture, getting out every day, eating the wrong things. I ended up at a crazy weight of 120 kilos. That was a big challenge. The other challenge was also working excessive hours. I used to work at 60 to 70 hours in the day. Yes, it was a highly paid job, but the stress finally caught up with me. What I didn't get from my job was fulfillment. I actually wanted to grow outward bound from the corporate world, and I was generally a creative person, and the job itself, it really contained my entrepreneurial spirit, and eventually it wore me out, and I ended up in the world of property. So the problems I faced when I'm getting started was the usual mindset issues: lack of time, lack of knowledge and expertise in real estate, specifically HMOs, and more importantly, lack of funding. Those are the three fundamental drivers that took me years before I figured out the way to get out of that circle. It made me feel hugely frustrated because of lack of time and knowledge. Also, I was surrounded by a lot of negative people, and as I always say, the man in the pub doesn't really know anything about property, and that had a real negative impact on my mindset, and it was years before I drove out of that environment. So it's quite common in this business when you first start off in real estate that your initial circle is probably not the right circle to guide you along the way, and that's when I first realized that I had to get educated with the right kind of mentors to be able to help me drive my property business forward, and here we are today. I persevered and succeeded through many things. One is action and activity and doing. The second part is actually learning to take risk. And yes, there were some projects that didn't work out as planned. However, in real estate, what's the worst thing that can happen if you bought a property? You're going to rent it out, you're going to get some income from it, and over time, with the real estate market, especially in the UK, prices are always on the upward curve. So I learned the art of taking calculated risks. So the first 6 months after starting my property journey and my property business, I felt a lot of overwhelm. I didn't really know how to set myself up as an entrepreneur. I didn't actually know what kind of activity I had to do on a daily and weekly basis in order to know how many properties I needed to acquire to build my portfolio. And it can be quite overwhelming, and I can understand that when the audience is watching this video. There were many days that I wanted to give up. I could count them, and then you're probably talking in the hundreds of. What I realized is the real superstars in any business, property or real estate or otherwise, is the ones who dust themselves down, get up and actually get on and reset and move on to the next project, and that's the biggest lesson. Moving into the world of property business, it had an effect on my home life as well as my family life. Having left a highly paid 6-figure job in the city of London, a lot of people actually, especially my friends and family around me, thought I was completely bonkers. And actually now, 5 years since I've left, the stability and the rewards are now coming through, and people are now starting to see my way of thinking. I pushed through and made it work, and having successfully refurbed a number of HMO properties that led to 105 rooms with a rent roll annually of £693,000. With every single HMO and every single room, there was something new to learn, and the later HMOs turned out to be some of the best investments I ever made. If you want to quickly get started on a rent to HMO strategy, using other people's property, you can also use OPM, which is other people's money. So let's take a simple example. You can rent a property from a landlord for £1,000 a month. Typically, if you'd get 5 rooms out of that, you will also need to kit the property out for around £4,000 furniture. So the total cash required from day one will be approximately £5,000. Now, if you do the maths, £2,500 for your HMO income, minus the £1,000 payable to the landlord, and also £500 for your bills, that leaves approximately a net income of about £1,000 a month. Now, assuming you're paying the investor 10% return, you could typically give that investor back £5,000 plus the interest over 5.5 months, and you can then go again onto the next property. Keep it simple. If you get started in HMOs, not only will it allow you to accelerate, to increase your income very quickly, it'll also be able to replace your job eventually, like all our students who are already making waves in the world of HMO and increasing their income and cash flow as we speak. Make sure you hit the bell button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and like and comment if you like what you hear. If you want any more HMO tips, just click on the next video.